Ran, I need another episode of Fully Cinematic.
Scorpion wins.
It's time to go back in Mortal Kombat history, back before the game even existed, the 1980s, when one of the franchise's signature characters came into his own. To Mortal Kombat Legends cage match, and oh yeah, there will be spoilers. A Santa plays the sax on a New York subway platform just before a purse snatcher cuffs a lady's bag and hauls it. After escaping onto a train and climbing on top, the thief's chased by a surprisingly swole mime who dodges his bullets. Not long after, the mime stops Tommy by flipping him off the roof of the car while uttering a lame one-liner. Someone yells cut, and it becomes clear that we're on set watching a cheesy action flick, Ninja Mime, being filmed, and the title character happens to be none other than C-list martial arts actor Johnny Cage, who took the liberty of saying "mime the gap" instead of "gravity's a." Cage's hopes are dampened when the producer, Brian Van Jones, informs him that the film's headliner, Jennifer Grey, is nowhere to be found, but he agrees to convince the star to return to set. On the way to her house, Cage's assistant of 2 years, bespectacled and bow tie wearing Chuck Golden, mentions that it's strange to celebrate Christmas without snow and asks Johnny how he got so cool. The former John Carlton divulges the childhood ordeals that molded him and his lifelong hatred of bullies. Being abandoned by teachers and school administrators to be beat up, stuffed in lockers, wedgied, and dunked in toilets prompts Johnny's mom to enroll him in a strip mall dojo run by Chuck Norris lookalike Master Boyd. After months of training and continued assaults, Johnny breaks one of his tormentor's arms in gym class. His success inspires him to train harder, and after Boyd calls him special, he travels the world studying fight techniques including Aikido, Sabate, and Kendo, before moving to California, where he stops a Mohawk mugger on Venice Beach. Fast forward a few years, and Chuck drops Johnny off at Jennifer's mansion before taking his Ferrari for a wash. Johnny, who's dressed like Sonny Crockett, notices the house looks like it's been ransacked before walking in on a catfight in progress between a chick in Raiden garb and another dressed like a promiscuous ninja fighting over a scroll. When he's attacked by both, he backs Raiden S off with a spin kick. Her opponent, Kia, runs off with the scroll, and a bomb detonation sends Cage flying into the pool. He quickly resumes the chase after Raiden's daughter, named Ashra, who's pursuing the ninja. By promising to pass along his script, Johnny convinces a tour bus driver to follow Ashra on a motorcycle she stole, who's after Lobo's daughter in a convertible she jacked. Ashra hops into the drop top and tosses Kia from it after snagging the scroll during a scuffle. The latter vows revenge just before being run over by the bus. Chuck drives up just in time for Cage to dive into the Testarossa when he overshoots the convertible. Not long after, he does jump into Ashra's wheels, swipes the scroll, and makes it back to his sports car as the drop drives off a cliff and into a pool below. After pulling over in the hills, Chuck realizes that the scroll is a map of Los Angeles with Greek writing on the back. He convinces Johnny to report Jennifer's disappearance to the police instead of simply recasting her part. Meanwhile, Ashra informs her master,
The Realm's champion is Raiden, Your Majesty,
of Johnny's interference and combat prowess. She also admits that she was distracted by his quote-unquote strong jaw and cologne during their tussles. Raiden commands her to recruit the actor, who just then gets a call on his car phone from his agent, David Double D, about interest from an A-list director shooting a comic book movie called The Adventures of Super Guy. Double D happens to be the guy who was mugged for his wallet on Venice Beach years earlier. He tells John to forget Jennifer and just hand over the scroll. He also confesses that he's a member of the Illuminati, essentially, and invites Cage to an induction ceremony at the Magical Mansion later that night. He reminds him that he'd still be working at Blockbuster if not for him, and demands the map. His client reacts badly to David's attitude and fires him on the spot. The latter responds by pulling a gun, but Johnny disarms him with a spin kick. Double D insists that he doesn't, quote-unquote, need a gun to take care of a like you. But after getting his handed to him, transforms into a horned monster before Cage kicks him out of his office window. He plunges to his death impaled on a statue in the lobby where Shelley, the receptionist, is writing down her digits for Chuck. Dave's body spontaneously combusts, and elsewhere, two hooded women discuss the chosen one and the fact that Kia had been killed by a member of the White Lotus. Chuck and Johnny head to the magical mansion, where Cage, who's dressed like Prince, is denied entry because he's been blackballed by every magician in town. Just as he's about to be ejected by security, a beautiful dark-skinned woman with white hair arrives and claims that he's her guest. Chuck listens in from a sound van swiped from the audio department, FBI style, as Storm leads Johnny in the tunnels under the house. A kiss allays his trepidation about the initiation process when Ashra arrives and leads him to the highway and away from Kataka, who turns out to be one of 3 assassins for the Brotherhood of Shadows. They think they've escaped when Tataka appears, spitting flames and wielding a sword. She drops them both before Chuck hits her with the van, causing her to combust. Ashra reveals that the cult members are disciples of Shinnok, who wants to open the gate to the Netherrealm, which will lead to world destruction. Kataka attacks again, but John's spin kick decapitates her. When he attempts to burn the scroll, an RPG launched from a chopper sends them all flying. Cage wakes up tied to a bed where Jennifer, who shot the grenade, confesses that she's a follower of Shinnok and is actually named Serena. She reveals that Johnny's been manipulated for his entire career, from being taken on by David to being cast in Ninja Mime to Brian tricking him into going to her house. All of this because he's special and has the blood of immortals. In the dungeon, Chuck and Ashra are hung by their wrists and threatened and stabbed by Ninja Mime's director, who turns out to be a demon guy and reveals that Ashra is also a demon from Netherrealm, who's on a quest for redemption because she can't stand to see humans suffer. They work together to kill the guard, and Ashra, who wants to become human herself, frees them from their chains. At an Eyes Wide Shut ceremony presided over by Serena, Johnny's wheeled in on a table covered in runes and tied to an altar while the cultists chant Shinnok. Ashra sneaks in, knocks a cult member out, and puts on her robe as Serena draws Johnny's blood with a ceremonial dagger. She drinks his blood from a goblet and reads an incantation before being interrupted by Chuck, who swings from a curtain onto the altar, only to be apprehended. Ashra then attacks Serena and kills 2 henchmen with the dagger, before Jennifer Rena points out that she's too late. As a pair of giant bloody hands rises from the floor, cultists flee. They open to reveal the man of the hour. Ashra subsequently accepts her fate, but Chuck and Johnny point out that bullies always fold like a hideaway bed when you push back. They plan to distract him so that Chuck can read the spell again, which will hopefully trap him in another dimension after he's maneuvered back to the rift. Johnny confronts Shinnok directly before being knocked out onto the street in front of quote-unquote Dan's world-famous Till Theater, where Shinnok vaporizes a few people while beating Johnny's. His famous teleportation power manifests while Ashra battles Serena, who it turns out is her sister, inside. Chuck kicks a demon that chased him for the scroll back into the portal as Serena morphs into her natural form, a giant winged monster. Shinnok summons more demons from the portal, and as Serena prepares to finish her off, Chuck throws Ashra the dagger, which she uses to stab her in the heart, destroying her. Out on the street, a prepubescent fan reminds Cage that this is the part of the movie where the hero makes his comeback, which causes him to realize that he's always been special, reminiscing that Boyd, Brian, and Jennifer told him so. He attacks Shinnok again, and his patented split punch makes him realize that even demons have balls. As Shinnok mounts a counterattack, the adoring onlookers throw rubble at him. Johnny rallies, encouraged by the crowd's cheers, and kicks him back inside and into the portal after telling them gravity's a. Chuck's incantation causes the giant hands to drag the demons back down before the portal solidifies back into the stone floor. Chuck throws the scroll into the fire, and while Johnny signs autographs, it begins to snow, and he kisses Ashra. Chuck goes on to study martial arts at a lousy dojo, and eventually does mocap for Johnny's movies. Cage inspires the Mortal Kombat video game and goes on to star in the Ninja Mime trilogy and become a superstar, until his career eventually stalls. The movie ends with him driving off in a Jeep bearing a real star license plate to shoot a film on location on a remote island near China in the hopes of making a comeback, which leads him to 2020's Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge. Although it's set at Christmas, Cage matches October release is perfect, considering all the occult going on. In Johnny's previous animated movies, Scorpion's Revenge and Battle of the Realms, He's a comic relief character in Sonya Blade's verbal and physical punching bag. But here, although the film is an action comedy, he's treated with respect by the story and is the primary and intentional hero. Cage is vain, shallow, and obsessed with fame. But far from a clown, he's also presented as hardworking, brave, and tenacious, even when he knows that the odds are against him. Perfectly cast, Joel McHale brings the kickboxer to life by bringing a liberal amount of Jeff Winger's persona along from Community. The lineup is rounded out by voice actor extraordinaire Phil Lamar, Gilbert Gottfried, and Jennifer Grey as herself. Never mind American Psycho, The Wolf of Wall Street, and The Wedding Singer, Cage Match is one of the best 80s period pieces to date. It's certainly the funniest, with homages galore to the decade's entertainment, from Lethal Weapon and The Karate Kid, to Die Hard and Big Trouble in Little China, to Dragnet and The Golden Child. Even the music, from the score synths and saxophone to the pop songs, is 80s appropriate. It's also the greatest Mortal Kombat movie, which is a much lower bar to clear, but I recommend it enthusiastically. Shout out to everybody who hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I've had enough of this conversation. I'm watching Cage Match again.
All of Outworld is grateful for his service.
Fully cinematic.